At his company's Christmas party, after too much whiskey and too many lies, my husband admitted he only chose me because he couldn't have my sister. We were standing by the bar when his colleague, Brett, mentioned how lucky he was to have such a beautiful wife. "Yeah, well, you should see her sister," Dylan slurred, swaying on his feet. "She's the real prize, this one's just the backup." Brett let out an awkward laugh. I stood there with my cocktail, feeling the ground tilt. "What did you just say?" I asked. Dylan looked over like he'd forgotten I existed. "Nothing, babe, just guys messing around." Brett was already walking off, muttering something about finding his wife. "You called me a consolation prize. You're being dramatic. You said you wish you'd married Luna." He actually shrugged. "Well, you can't marry your wife's sister. That's not how it works. So you picked me instead?" "Someone had to, eventually," he said, like it was the most logical thing in the world. 8 years. 8 years of marriage, and this was what he really thought. "We're leaving," I said. "The party just started. We're going, now." In the car, he tried to smooth it over. "I didn't mean it like that." "Then how did you mean it?" Luna's stunning. "Everyone knows that. You do too. But I went with you because choosing her wasn't an option." "That isn't a compliment, Dylan. When I met you two that summer at your parents' place, Luna was 18 and you were 23. Dating her would have been weird. You made more sense." "Made more?" Sighed like I was being unreasonable. "Same family, same genes, but you were the appropriate choice. Same genetics. Like I was the convenient version of her. Did you ever love me? Of course I love you. You're my wife." "That's not an answer. What do you want, for me to pretend I never wondered? What if everyone wonders about their wife's sister? And not for 8 years. The rest of the drive was silent at home. I went straight to the bedroom and pulled out suitcases. "What are you doing? What does it look like?" "You're overreacting. I just find your sister attractive. So what? I married you. We have kids." Grabbed my arm. "Stop being ridiculous. You can't leave over this. Watch me. And go where? Your parents? They'll say you're being childish. What are you going to tell them?" "That I think Luna is pretty." "I'll tell them the truth. That you admitted you married me because you couldn't have her." "I was drunk." Drunk words are sober thoughts. My phone rang. It was Luna. "Hey, are you okay? Brett's wife said something weird happened with Dylan." I put her on speaker. "I'm fine," said Dylan. Made some comment about me. Something about wishing. She wouldn't say exactly. Dylan's face drained of color. "Luna, what did she tell you?" I asked. "Just that Dylan said something gross about marrying the wrong sister." "Did he?" I stared at him. "Why don't you ask him?" "Dylan," Luna's voice sharpened. "It was taken out of context," he said. "What context makes that acceptable?" Luna shot back. "You're married to my sister. You have 2 kids. What is wrong with you?" "Everyone always fawns over you," Dylan snapped. "Every family dinner, every holiday. Luna the model, Luna the influencer, Luna the perfect one. And I'm stuck with..." "Stuck with what?" I asked. "Finish it." "With someone who will never measure up," he muttered. Luna gasped. "Are you kidding me? My sister is worth 10 of you. She's smart, kind, supportive. She practically carried you through getting your job and through your dad's death. She's raising your kids, and you're stuck." "Luna, no, don't talk to me again. Don't look at me at family gatherings. You're disgusting." She paused. "Lily, do you need a place to stay?" "I'm packing. Come over. The kids can sleep in the spare room." "This has nothing to do with you," Dylan said. "It became my business the second you dragged me into your twisted fantasy," Luna said. "What else do you do? Scroll through my photos, compare us. Pretend she's me?" "Stop," Dylan said. "No, I want to know, how long have you been imagining she's me? Since the wedding, the honeymoon, every time you..." "Enough," Dylan shouted. "I'm done," Luna said. "Lily, the door's open." "Dylan, I'm telling everyone what you said." The call ended. Dylan stared at me. "This is your fault. You blew everything up. Now she hates me and the whole family will too. You did this. You told people you settled for me." "Don't twist it. I never said it exactly like that. You said you're stuck with me. You said I'll never measure up." "Because it's true," he yelled. "You're average, you're plain, you're nothing special. Luna lights up every room and you're just there." I stopped folding clothes and actually looked at him, his thinning hair, his soft stomach, his petty little eyes. "You want the truth?" I asked quietly. "I do. Known for 3 years you settled for me. Every time you suggested I copy Luna's workouts or dress like her or compared us at family dinners, I felt it. I just convinced myself that maybe that's what marriage was, learning to live with being the second choice." My voice broke. "But hearing you say it out loud like it was a fact, that ruined something I can't repair." He went pale like he'd been hit. I turned back to the suitcase and kept packing, my hands shaking. He just stood there while I emptied our closet into suitcases like he couldn't wrap his head around the fact that I was actually leaving. "Guest room," I said, not even glancing at him. Sleep there tonight, I need to finish this. For once, he didn't push back. I heard him walk down the hallway and close the guest room door. The silence felt strange, heavy, but also strangely clean, like air I hadn't breathed in years. 9 minutes later, my phone rang. Luna's name filled the screen. "Mom and Dad are driving up tomorrow morning," she said, anger tightening her voice. "I already told them everything Brett's wife told me. They'll be here first thing. You won't have to face this alone." The relief hit so hard I had to sit down on the bed. "Thank you," I whispered. She told me she loved me, then hung up to call more relatives. The rest of the night I drifted around our bedroom like a ghost. Every framed picture felt like it belonged to a different life. Our wedding photo, his smile that I used to believe, the hospital pictures with our newborns, his arms around me looking proud. Vacation shots, fake happiness frozen on glossy paper. I left them all where they were. They belonged to the version of me who didn't know any better. I packed only what mattered. The kids' clothes, their favorite toys, school things, my laptop. Important documents. I left behind 8 years of trying to prove myself to a man who wished I was someone else. The kids woke around 7, asking about breakfast. I made pancakes and kept my voice level when I told them we were going to stay with Aunt Luna for a few days. My daughter asked if it would be like a sleepover. I said yes. My son wanted to know why. I used the gentle, careful phrases you learn from parents who have split up. Mom and Dad just need a little space to think. Were you fighting? Sometimes grown-ups need time apart. They nodded, already focused on whether they could bring their tablets. Dylan came out of the guest room looking like he hadn't slept at all. Hair sticking up, eyes red, he bent down to kiss the kids like it was a normal morning, but our son pulled back. "Why does Daddy look sad?" he asked. I swallowed every ounce of bitterness. "Daddy's just tired. Say goodbye, we need to go." My daughter hugged him. My son waved from across the kitchen. Dylan's face collapsed a little, but I couldn't feel bad for him. He created this. He spoke those words, and he meant them. Luna's apartment felt like stepping into a safe shelter. She'd already set up the spare room with air mattresses, pillows, and the kids' favorite snacks laid out neatly. She hugged me the moment I walked through the door, and that was when I finally cried. 8 years of swallowing disappointment, and pretending everything was fine cracked all at once. The kids ran off to explore, and I just sobbed into my sister's shoulder while she held me tight. My parents arrived right at noon, exactly like she said they would. My father looked furious. My mother was crying before she even stepped inside. They asked everything, every word Dylan had said at the party. Repeating them out loud made them sound even more cruel. "The consolation prize stuck with you. You'll never measure up." My mother cried harder with each sentence. My father's jaw clenched so tight I thought it might break. When I finished, he took out his phone. I'm calling him right now. His voice was low and steady, which was scarier than if he'd screamed. He put the call on speaker. Dylan answered immediately, sounding on edge. My father didn't waste time. "You are no longer welcome at family events. Not Christmas, not birthdays, nothing. From now on, you communicate through lawyers. You call my daughter only for the children. You made your choice when you said those things in public, and now you live with the consequences." Dylan tried to cut in, but my father hung up. My mother squeezed my hand. Luna sat beside me with that fierce look like she would fight anyone who tried to hurt me again. Before my father even put his phone down, mine started buzzing nonstop. Dylan calling over and over. I let it ring out 3 times before the texts started coming. "Your dad threatened me. This is insane. You need to fix this. I'm still your husband. We can fix things if you stop being dramatic." Every message blamed me, like I forced him to say what he said. Like my hurt was the real problem, not his confession. I took screenshots and forwarded them to Luna. She read them and shook her head. "He's digging himself deeper." My mom suggested turning off my phone, but I wanted to see how far he'd go. More messages. "You're turning everyone against me. Your family always favored you anyway." I bet Luna's thrilled. Finally something for her to post about. That last one made Luna laugh out loud. "Does he think I'm going to Instagram his meltdown?" she said, rolling her eyes. The doorbell rang around 7. Luna answered, and Marissa walked in with 2 bottles of wine and a bag of Chinese food. "I heard through Sarah, whose husband works with Dylan," she said, looking worried. "Figured you needed real food and company." She hugged me, and I realized I hadn't eaten since morning over dinner. Marissa told us half the neighborhood knew what happened. Brett's wife had already told people at yoga. "Everyone knows Dylan called you a consolation prize in front of his coworkers," she said, furious on my behalf. My parents had already left, but Luna stayed with us, ignoring Dylan's calls like they were spam. When the kids wandered out asking for dinner, guilt punched through me. Luna heated up chicken nuggets while I tried to explain gently that we might be living at her place for a little while. It doesn't mean anyone's in trouble, Luna added. You'll still see Daddy, just at different times. They accepted it faster than I did later. Dylan's parents called. Before I could even react, Luna grabbed my phone. She's not ready to talk, she said firmly. I could hear his mother crying in the background, insisting she'd raised him better. They want to come over, Luna told me afterward. I told them no. My hands shook with relief. Around 9, Henry called. Sorry, it's late. Marissa told me what happened. I wanted to give you some legal context. He explained that Dylan admitting publicly that he married me as a consolation prize could matter in divorce proceedings, especially regarding emotional abuse. There were witnesses, he added. This isn't just your word against his. He gave me 3 attorney names. Luna wrote them down before I could even answer. 2 days later, I sat in the office of Jamaica, a family lawyer with sharp eyes and gray hair. She listened to everything, from the party to the texts to my dad's call, then said, "This is emotional abuse. The comments about your sister, the comparisons, the admission he married you because he couldn't have her." She asked if it had happened before. Sitting there, I realized how much I had dismissed. Dylan urging me to do Luna's workouts, suggesting I dress more like her, joking that the kids were lucky genetically, showing me Luna's Instagram and asking why I didn't try that hard, watching her at Christmas like I wasn't even in the room piece by piece. Things I had normalized suddenly looked like what they really were. Jamaica wrote everything down while I talked, her expression tightening with every example. She told me this was classic emotional abuse through comparison. Hearing it out loud made me realize how much I'd brushed off as me being too sensitive. 3 days after I moved in with Luna, Dylan showed up at her apartment without warning while I was making lunch for the kids. I heard his voice instantly. "I need to see my kids." Luna stayed calm. "Visits have to be arranged properly now. You don't get to just show up." When I stepped into view, Dylan looked rough, unshaven, and exhausted, but I couldn't pity him anymore. He demanded to be let inside, insisting it was between him and his wife. Luna actually laughed. "My sister is done with you. You're not coming in." She reminded him of what he'd said about me at the Christmas party in front of his coworkers, calling me a consolation prize who would never measure up. He tried to push past her, but she blocked the doorway until he left. The kids came out asking what was going on, and I gently sent them back to the spare room. That evening, Ezekiel called, trying to smooth things over with a fake friendly tone. "Boys will be boys," he said, claiming Dylan didn't mean what he said. I told him Dylan was sober enough to clearly express 8 years of treating me like second best. When he suggested a group talk, I hung up. Luna high-fived me a few days later. I went back to the house while Dylan was at work to grab clothes and toys. Walking in felt wrong, like it wasn't my home anymore. Everything looked like a stage set. Our photos, our couch, the kitchen things we used daily. While packing in our bedroom, I noticed his nightstand drawer open. Inside was the old leather journal he'd written in years ago. I opened it and froze. One of the first entries was from early in our relationship. He wrote about a family barbecue, how he couldn't stop watching Luna in her sundress. He called her the one that got away and described me as good enough for now. Entry after entry compared us. Luna was captivating, magnetic, perfect. I was practical, safe, acceptable. Even wrote that marrying me was the smart choice because it kept him close to Luna and my parents liked him. He had an actual plan written out about using our marriage to be around her more. I took photos of every page, hands shaking. This wasn't drunken rambling. It was 8 years of intentional settling. I shoved the journal back and finished packing quickly. At Sunday dinner, my parents treated the whole situation like a strategy meeting. Luna sat beside me while my father immediately started talking about taking Dylan for everything in the divorce. My mom agreed, saying I deserved every bit after what he'd done. I told my parents I didn't want revenge. I just wanted out and a fair custody plan. But my father kept pushing ideas about how to get the biggest settlement, and my mother cried through most of dinner, apologizing for not seeing who Dylan really was. Luna reminded them that dragging things out would hurt the kids more. By the time dessert was served, I was exhausted from repeating everything Dylan had said. Their anger was loud when all I wanted was peace back at Luna's apartment. Dylan started calling from random numbers since I'd blocked his own. His voicemails swung between begging and blaming. Jamaica told me to save every message for court, so I made a folder on my phone, and it filled up quickly. Marissa came by with coffee and told me the whole company was talking about Dylan. Multiple coworkers had gone to HR after the Christmas party, saying he'd talked about Luna in inappropriate ways for years. One woman said he'd even shown her Luna's social media photos. His boss was furious. Hearing that made me sick. His obsession had been obvious to everyone but me. I enrolled the kids in temporary counseling. The counselor said they were coping, but my son kept asking if Daddy stopped loving Mommy. My daughter seemed steadier but had started having nightmares. The counselor gave me ways to reassure them that both parents still loved them. Then Dylan's mother asked to meet without Dylan knowing. I went reluctantly. She cried immediately and admitted she'd noticed Dylan's fixation on Luna years ago, but convinced herself marriage would fix him. She apologized over and over, at the wedding, at family dinners, for staying silent when she saw red flags. Then she told me Ezekiel had pushed Dylan to marry me because he thought I was stable and would keep him grounded. Hearing that hurt in a different way, I finally booked a session with Callista Brooks, a therapist who specializes in betrayal trauma. I spent most of the first appointment crying while she listened. I told her everything, from the Christmas party to the journal to Dylan's mother's confession. She told me that discovering my marriage had been built on being someone's second choice was real trauma, and I needed space to grieve it. Callista told me I wasn't just mourning the end of my marriage. I was grieving the version of it I believed in for 8 years. I left that first session exhausted but finally validated. She gave me journaling homework and we set weekly appointments. 2 weeks into therapy, Jamaica emailed me a counterpetition. Dylan had filed his own paperwork, claiming irreconcilable problems and asking for equal custody. Jamaica said it was normal, but asked me to document every moment he'd compared me to Luna or put me down. I started the list that night and filled several pages before my hands started shaking. The kids had their first overnight with Dylan that Friday. I packed and repacked their bags, panicking over every detail. Luna helped me finish, reminding me they'd be okay. But when I dropped them off, watching them walk inside with their little backpacks, my stomach twisted. I spent the night pacing and barely slept. When I picked them up the next morning, they were cheerful, pancakes, drawings, stories. But then my daughter asked why we couldn't live together again if Daddy promised to be nicer. That question sat heavy on my chest all weekend. On Monday, Luna showed me a message from one of Dylan's so-called friends, blaming her for breaking up a family. Luna posted the screenshot with a caption calling out men who blame women for their own choices. The post blew up fast. I worried Dylan would get even angrier, but Luna reminded me he made this public at the Christmas party. She wasn't protecting his image when he never protected mine at my next session. I told Callista I feared Dylan would compare our kids to any future children Luna might have, the same way he compared me to her. Callista said I couldn't control Dylan, but I could model self-worth for my children. She told me to practice positive self-talk around them so they'd see what self-respect looks like. On Thursday, Jamaica filed our response with detailed examples from my list and statements from relatives who'd witnessed his behavior. Dylan's lawyer called it exaggerated, trying to act like Dylan was just a normal guy in a tough divorce. Jamaica shut him down, saying emotional abuse through comparison is real and documented, then hung up. By Friday, I was mentally drained. Marissa invited me for a girls' night with Luna and some old friends. I almost said no, but went anyway. Her living room was full of women I hadn't seen much during my marriage. They hugged me and said they were sorry for everything I'd been dealing with. For the first time in a long while, I felt surrounded, supported, and seen at Marissa's girls' night. We ate snacks, told stories, and laughed until my stomach hurt. For the first time in weeks, I felt like myself again, funny, smart, and more than just Dylan's wife. I drove home lighter,